We're talking to Ellen Cassidy of Elemental Prep today. Ellen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here.
All right, so get right into it. What is Elemental Prep? Give me the full rundown, elevator pitch, and then the holistic view of the company and everything about it.
Yeah. So Elemental Prep is, I like to call it a online Hogwarts for LSAT. But it's also the company behind the book, The Loophole in LSAT Logical Reasoning, which is the best-selling logical reasoning guide for the LSAT, soon to be 2/3 of the LSAT. And so very, very exciting there. The book, The Loophole, I had worked on from 2012 to 2018 and came out on Amazon late 2018, blew up on Reddit January 1st, 2019, and has self-propelled the company ever since. That with zero marketing spend, basically the Loophole is the marketing for the rest of the company. Just that's how people find out about me and come knocking at my door. And so in the years since the Loophole has come out, Elemental has kind of flourished into an online global academy where I have private students from all over the world, and then also develop a lot of digital tools and subscription platforms and things like that to serve them and their LSAT needs in novel ways. And so my methodology for LSAT is really built around addressing the foundational elements that create great scores. Like I am not someone who really enjoys like cheap bullshit test prep of like, okay, like here's what the questions are. Like I really want to teach people how to read and think well. And the LSAT just happens to be a time where people have a really high stakes reason to care about how well they read and think because, you know, their dream is on the line of they won't be able to go to Harvard Law School or whatnot if they can't hack it at the LSAT. And so they're willing to do the drills that I prescribe, and we can address some really wonderful like reading and critical thinking problems at their source and actually fix them in a way that serves the student, not only on the LSAT of getting 99th percentile scores and things like that, but then also when they go to law school and in their lives later to become, reading, thinking humans who can critically engage with the world in the ways we need them to.
Okay, so the LSAT prep is really kind of a guise for actually just a educational course on how to read and think better.
In a way, yeah. Like that's what I'm really passionate about, and it works super well for LSAT. And so I kind of think of it as LSAT is a place where there's a very motivated base of people who want to do this, but I do eventually want to take the methods that I have seen work very well in LSAT and expand them to further audiences like kids, executives, general humans who need to read and think well, because like obviously this is a problem that plagues more than just LSAT students. LSAT students are just the ones who really want to solve it like in a near-term solution.
So the Loophole is like you said, the entire marketing behind this. So was the Loophole took off and then you decided you needed something else, or?
Well, no, I mean, I always taught the LSAT. So I took the LSAT in 2011. And from that point on, I didn't realize, I was like, I want to do the LSAT forever, but I didn't understand that like could be a career. I really loved the test from like the minute I met it. I felt like this was like finally someone speaking my native language, and like this is the thing I can do better than anyone else. And so I didn't know though that could be a job. And so I applied to law school, and I ended up getting into Harvard Law School and deferring 3 times before turning them down. But in that 3 years of deferral, I was learning and working on the Loophole. And of course after the deferral ended too, but I had a lot of private students that I would just find as like that random girl in Palo Alto who's obsessed with the LSAT, and my students would then tell their friends. I was kind of like the unofficial LSAT tutor of like a certain law firm where a bunch of paralegals would like tell their friends. And so I really used that time as more like my LSAT reading, thinking, critical thinking PhD of actually having subjects where I could see what ails them, what the problems are, and be able to quickly test lots of different solutions and have, real live people that are dependent on my ingenuity. And, that was when I found out, in 2012, I did not know what I was doing at all. But it was the students who gave me the challenges and the information and the trust to be able to learn truly how to solve their problems. And so the loophole was written on the basis of all of that research that I did for that 6 years. And it's really the people that I was teaching that are behind all of the novel reading and thinking methodologies that are in the loophole. And I thank them individually that they're the people who really made it. And so then after the loophole came out, essentially the core difference was I was just a lot more famous. And
Okay.
so in becoming a lot more well known very quickly, it wasn't that like, oh, now I'm going to start serving individual students. It was, oh, now a lot more people in a lot more places want to be my student. And I have to start to build up the structures and programs to, honestly, my whole business is based on managing that demand of, okay, I can only have so many students per week because all my calendars are recurring slots. Well, 20 people are going to be really mad at me if I don't figure out something to give them right now. So let me invent a new digital learning structure where I can, watch them do something for 2 minutes and then give them asynchronous video feedback back and forth with prompts, which is how I invented what I now call Living Flashcards, and is now patent pending.
Okay, so the life cycle of this is you took the LSAT, you really enjoyed the LSAT, so you decided to either teach the LSAT or work on the loophole as you were deferring Harvard law.
Yes.
Was it both at the same time, or was it kind of how
Yeah.
did you move into one or the other? Did
I
you
mean,
just
they were
tell
always
your
the
friends
same
I had a
thing.
blast taking the LSAT, or how did that
Oh,
initial
I
part
mean,
start?
I always said I had a blast taking the LSAT. I mean, there are
Okay.
receipts for this of people who knew me in 2011 and were like, "What is wrong with her?" But as soon as I met it, I couldn't believe the bad reputation that the LSAT had based on what it actually was, because what it really is little riddles of that
Okay.
are kind of common knowledge riddles, like tiny paragraphs that are very general person. It's like I'm looking at one right now about lemurs in a rainforest and oh, these lemurs, the trees lose their leaves in their habitat, and things like that, where it's a little critical thinking puzzle that you have to unlock. And I really like that kind of rapid fire escape room feeling of you get to escape 25 escape rooms in a row. You get to do 25 Rubik's cubes in a row all in a minute and a half. It's like, to me, that's very fun. I enjoy that a lot. And I got very addicted to that feeling. I've described it as popping bubble wrap over and over and over again. But that was, of course, just me doing the test. Then when you start to see how it is for other people, you start to understand why the LSAT has the reputation that it does. And it's not actually because it truly sucks. It's because it makes people feel like their dreams can't come true because they just aren't smart enough. And that's very sad, and
I
I
feel
don't
like
believe that.
anybody
Just a disclaimer.
I feel like anybody listening to this might all of a sudden just be interested in taking the LSAT just for fun, based off your pitch of
Well,
it.
I
So,
mean, I'm
okay,
open, so shoot me an email.
so you deferred Harvard 3 times. You wrote the loophole, and you started teaching people individually. That evolved into Elemental Prep. The loophole is the main marketing into Elemental Prep, but you ran into and I know we've talked about this prior. You run into a bottleneck where you can only help a certain amount of students, and so in order to kind of solve that, you've created that. What is it called?
Living Flashcards.
Living Flashcards. Is this brand new?
Well, the product has been around for, I don't know, 2.5 years now.
Okay.
But I mean, the names for it, I've had about 12 names. And it has, a student attempted to steal it already and start a soccer company. So that was awesome.
Okay.
But I've now gotten, a non-provisional patent, and we're, waiting out the patent office to see what they say. But
can you tell me what is it like? What is it? How does it work?
what does it do?
Yeah.
So the conundrum I faced, I think it was in 2021 or 2022, was I had a very long wait list, and I was not going to be able to get through them in the amount of time that I had. And so I said to myself, okay, I have to be able to serve these 20 more people and not have Zoom meetings with them. So what I did was I used a video tool and I recorded a video prompt where it's like a very brief lesson, couple of minutes saying, hey, do this, this, and this. All right, go to this specific question right now and translate it. Translation is my word for reading in my special way. And so go to PT7, section 1, number 1 right now and translate it on video right now in this tool. And so then they click record and they're like, all right, here's me translating PT7, number 1. Blah, blah, blah. And then they click submit. They see a video of Ellen doing the exact same thing that they just did, where I'm translating PT7 1. And they're charged with, hey, take your notes. Notice what Ellen did differently than you. Do you have any questions? Why did Ellen do that? Was it okay that you did that in yours? Well, let's find out. And then they press OK and they record a reflection where they ask those questions. They see the insights of how they were the same and different. Their reflection and their original take is sent then to me and the reply team, and we watch it and we record 2 minutes of custom feedback telling them exactly what they did wrong and what they need to do differently. And
so
then they're
how
assigned
many
a new
more
prompt
people did
based
you
on what they did in that one of like what would be relevant next.
Okay. And how many more people did this allow you to handle? Like what kind of growth did you get to
About
experience?
20. I mean, like these were all people who wanted my tutoring. And so they were all people who were in the line to get tutoring. And so I built it as a subscription for while you're on my tutoring wait list. Basically, this is what we're
so
doing.
These are not,
and
so you were handling all of the students that you were handling already, and then you are additionally handling an additional 20 students with the Living Flashcard method.
I was. And when it was only me replying, maybe the most I got to was probably 12 more. Now I am hiring people to help me with the replies. And so basically I'm going to be mentoring people through how to do the replies, because the replies, you can make a database of every reply I've ever done. So they have tons and tons of
like, so ChatGPT, that's perfect. Perfect ChatGPT, custom GPT.
Oh, well, please tell me about that because I will use that.
Okay, we'll talk offline. But yeah, that's essentially what ChatGPT is good at, is like taking a massive amount of information and being able to kind of like replicate things or riff on it. Okay, well that's awesome. Thank you for the summary and the in-depth explanation. I kind of view you as an interactive Miss Rachel for adults with the Living Flashcard thing. So, all right. So we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine, and we are going to talk about how you got started and how you ended up basically taking the LSAT, doing the loophole, doing elemental prep. And so what I have here, which you provided me earlier, I'm going to rattle off a couple at a time because you just have a litany of things here. So age 15, 16, cashier. And a cheese shop. So it was like one after another. So you started as a cashier and it looks like you moved to the cheese shop. Can you kind of tell me about those early experiences?
Yeah. So a Wegmans opened up in my town in Pennsylvania, and it was like, well, I'm 15. I guess I have to get a job. And so on the weekends, I was the 15-year-old, which is like the youngest you could be to be at this place. And I had a red name tag, I remember, that was like, oh, better not break labor laws. And then they broke labor laws. And I did not like being a cashier because I was not very fast. I liked chatting with the customers, and I got good like scores, but I was always chastised for not going fast enough. And so I caught them like not giving me my required breaks, and I went to HR and I was like, I just want to be moved. And so they moved me to the cheese shop, which was like the plum gig at Wegmans. That was like when I turned 16, I got to move because you couldn't be 15 in the cheese shop. And it was very contemplative. And my dad actually said he really wanted me to work in the cheese shop because he was like, then, in your future, when you're around all these rich people, you'll be able to pass. It's like, you need to be there because then you're going to go to all these fancy parties and you'll know what all like the fancy food is and be able to like blend in.
So your dad sent you to Cheese Cotillion is what you're telling me.
Basically it was, kind of a simulated version.
Okay, so what did you take any experiences from those early jobs at
I mean,
Wegmans?
his plan did work. I did learn a lot about cheese.
Yeah,
I now, I know the difference between like French feta and Israeli feta. And I know what Emmentaler is. I know about triple versus double cream bries and all of this different kind of stuff. And so I memorized a lot of cheese information,
yeah,
and it actually did help. That whenever because I then went to Stanford right after the cheese shop was over, and when I got there, it actually did help me blend in more at Stanford.
interesting. Okay, so I've actually got to introduce you to my wife. You haven't met her yet. She actually runs a bespoke charcuterie board business on the side for fun. And so, yeah, I get to experience all the great cheeses uh, that she has to
Oh,
offer.
that's awesome.
Okay, so around the same time, you were what is Tolerance Forum?
Okay, so I went to a lot of different schools growing up. I moved like 7 different times, went to probably 7 different schools. I don't really remember. I was homeschooled in 7th and 8th grade. I went to Stanford online for English and math, and then I was just kind of on my own meeting with teachers for the other subjects. But then when I went to high school, I went back to regular school, and I was at this Catholic school called the Academy of Notre Dame de Namur, and I was like the scholarship kid who, took 2 trains and a bus to get there every day. I had like, I think I've calculated, I had like a 4.5 to 5 hour round trip commute. Like, I mean,
Oh wow.
it was a significant commute to get to this school. And I was like the straight A student with no disciplinary record who was a bit of a rabble rouser. And so I came out as bisexual when I was like 14, with freshman in high school. But I started to get very activist oriented and started a lot of different initiatives. And so the Tolerance Forum is one of those initiatives. The first one I started was called the Day of Silence. I think that was my sophomore year. I organized at this Catholic school that everybody was gonna refused to talk for the whole day in honor of like the silence that's experienced by LGBTQ people. And the administration didn't love that because it was
Yeah.
pretty disruptive to class. And it started kind of like a cold war. Let's say a cold war between me and the administration of the school, because I was actually like a very good kid who participated and was, good at school and all that stuff. They just really didn't like that I kept on creating these organizations over and over again. And so the next thing was I started and in a sense revived this idea had existed in a different form before me, and so credit to them. But I started this gay prom. And so my junior year, I rented a hall, sold 100 tickets, got like a band and a caterer, and like raised $2,000 when I was 16 to do this gay prom. And they were saying things like, we don't want you talking to more than 3 people about this at a time. You're not allowed to hand out flyers, all this different kind of stuff. And I just kind of got offended by that they didn't want to like let me talk. And so, in my wisdom as a 16-year-old, I was like, well, I'll just fax a press release to all of the news organizations in the area. And it then got picked up on national talk radio and became a big thing. It was on our local radio station, KYW News Radio in Philadelphia, like all day when it was going on. And this really pissed off the school.
Yeah, I would say you've graduated beyond rabble rouser there.
And so, because then it's like, what are we going to do? Because there wasn't like, I wasn't doing anything quote unquote wrong, but it was
Right.
like, this girl, what are you doing? But I think they made their own bed. But the Tolerance Forum is the club that I started. And so I'm in my Cold War with them. I made a deal. This is like kind of going on at the same time of the prom, that it's like, oh, I'll start this club and you can program all but one of our meetings. I'll just do whatever you want. I did like mix it up at lunch day. Like I did all this stuff about like bullying and whatnot. I was like, in just one meeting a year, I get to talk about gay rights. And so I'll be like your puppet. And then just one meeting is mine. And they made that deal. And so then the tolerance forum became this big chip in what ended up being my expulsion from that school, because I was going to the Pennsylvania Governor's School for Teaching, which is our next item, that summer right after I was expelled. And the tolerance forum was my like big project that I was doing for that school of teaching. So it was like, they of course wanted to, as a condition of me coming back, have, cancel all of my stuff I was doing and all that stuff. And it was like, oh, but you can't cancel this tolerance forum because it's got this other thing. And so then they decided to just instead expel me for threatening the safety and order of the school community. And just
after the news organizations got involved, they expelled you.
Yeah, they were just done. And
they doubled down.
They expelled me right before finals, and I was set to take the SAT, and my dad actually didn't tell me until after. And I look back now and I'm very grateful that he did not tell me that I had gotten expelled.
Wow.
But I later found out that they had a meeting with all the parents, teachers, alums, and all this stuff to announce that I had been expelled not announce I had been expelled, say I chose to leave voluntarily and after seeing the errors of my ways. And when I found out they like lied to everybody, I was like so mad. But yeah, I mean, that's the Ellen gets expelled from high school story.
So I want to move. Okay, so next is the PA Governor's School. I want to combine that and the writing tutoring because it seems like both these kind of combine into a teaching, and it almost is a the tolerance forum also. Well, the cheese shop also, like you could say that the cheese shop you were educating people on cheeses, the tolerance forum you were educating people on LGBTQ things, and then you really formalized it into an early career with the writing tutoring. But how does the PA Governor's School move into the writing tutoring and explain the writing tutoring?
Well, despite, all of the stuff I was doing at this school, I actually was not a very popular kid. I mean, although I guess maybe that's not surprising based on the stories, but I really loved going to camps and getting to be around like new cool people because people didn't really like me where I lived. And so the Pennsylvania Governor's School for Teaching was a free camp because like camps were expensive and I couldn't actually go to camps. So I wanted to go to the free camp that you could apply to and go for free. And I actually ended up going to the Governor's School for Teaching because I got rejected from the arts, PA Governor's School for the Arts. And they gave me my second choice, which was teaching. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, well, that was a real blessing. But I absolutely loved that. It was like 6 weeks or 2 months where you were on a college campus and they basically like taught you how to teach, and then you were able to teach disadvantaged sixth graders. And I taught them poetry. And I really fell in love with teaching when I was there. I thought it was so fun and cool, and you got to talk to people and help people, and I've always loved helping people. And so that really inspired my love for teaching. And then after that, I was teaching basically whatever. I taught writing a lot because writing is like one of my core skills. But even before the Governor's School for Teaching, I was the type of person that would go up to my cousin and be like, what college are you going to go to? Let's make a strategy. And I'm like 9. Like I was always that way where I was just like, oh, the educational endeavor you want, let's like find a way to make it happen. And so it continued from there.
Okay, so you did the writing tutoring for about 5 years. You did another camp. You did an open source theater company. I'm kind of skipping ahead because there's just so much here. It's insane. We've got let's go to the office work at Rutgers theater department. So you have some theater work. Tell me about the Rutgers stuff.
Yeah. So the backstory here is that I did, throughout this whole time, I was very into acting and improv. So I did improv comedy and was, involved in theater in various capacities since I was like 5. That was my main hobby. And so when I was at Stanford, I was, starting random theater companies for plays I wrote. I went to the American Conservatory Theater, and I did theater for another year. And then I was like, I'm going to apply this MFA program at Rutgers in playwriting, and that's going to be my life. I'm going to be a playwright. And so the office work in the Rutgers Theater Department was my work study for my MFA.
So it was really that you were interested in theater and writing,
Oh, yeah.
and so you wanted to write theater.
Yep. And so the office work was just the work study at the MFA. But, I got free pretzels, so that was like a main thing of that job.
And then you did something else at Rutgers, but I want to skip over to the Palantir stuff. So how did you go from loving theater and writing in education to, were you working for Palantir, or you were helping people get jobs at Palantir?
Well, Chad, what you do is you flame out of an MFA in playwriting after one semester because everyone hates you. And then you have to go back to Palo Alto with your boyfriend and accept defeat. And so I had moved to New Jersey for Rutgers, and I say I was disliked growing up. I mean, man, oh man, was I disliked at Rutgers. And I was really just bullied. It was like very bad. It was a bad experience. I could go into all the details, but I left after one semester. So I was only there for, 4 months or something like that. And so when I came back, my boyfriend was one of the first, he was in the first 200 employees, like employee like 160 or something at Palantir. And so I was friends with a lot of people who were early at Palantir, and friendly with some of the founders of Palantir. And so this was all just situational. Actually, Alex Karp,
What
the
year is
CEO of
this?
Palantir, wrote one of my law school recommendation letters. This was in 2010.
Okay. So Palantir already had 160 people in 2010?
I think so. I mean,
wow.
Maybe I'm thinking it wrong, and he was like employee number 116 or something like that. But he definitely had 100. It was the first digit.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
And
keep going.
No worries. And so I would go in and have dinner with all the Palantir guys every day. Like I was like kind of an unofficial member of the Palantir early stage community. And so then it's like, well, Ellen flamed out of this MFA. Like, can we give her something to do? Was really like what it was. And they were like, oh, I mean, I guess we can make her a contractor and let her write job descriptions. And so I was just, helping various people of like, take on this project of trying to standardize the job description template and write job descriptions that were like according to a style guide. It was, I wouldn't say it was a successful project, but I did work on it for a while, and I really thought I'd like, hit my big break charging $50 an hour to write these job descriptions. But,
I mean, that's I'd take that right now. $50 an hour to write job descriptions.
I mean,
for Palantir,
not bad. Really not bad.
Okay, so what is bricks and mortar? And how did you transition from Palantir to bricks and mortar?
Well, okay, saying I transitioned, all this shit's going on all at the same time. Bricks and Mortar magazine was a favor I did on the side for my friend Ralph. So I used to hang out at Phil's Coffee all the time, and I would just go there and write and sit and do my things. And there was a guy named Ralph who I met, and seemed just like a really sweet guy trying to catch a break. And he really wanted to start this magazine called Bricks and Mortar. And he didn't really know anyone who was like good at English and writing and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll help this guy. He seems like a nice guy. And so I just basically did free work helping him out on and off for like 6 years, like a really long time. And just because he's a good friend and I wanted to help him out, and I got to do some fun stuff. And so it was just one of my many, many random projects I took on, but actually was quite consequential in the end.
And so now we move into where you're actually doing what you're doing now, which is the PowerScore LSAT teaching. How did that come about?
So when I was writing those Palantir job descriptions, and I just dropped out of the Rutgers MFA, and I came back to Palo Alto, tail between my legs, I was, kind of like not knowing what I was going to do, what's my career going to be, quarter life crisis kind of thing. And I was wanting to be a recluse. My best friend was trying to convince me to go to this hot tub party. And I am not the kind of person that goes to hot tub parties. So that's like not me.
What
And it was
is a
also,
hot tub party for
it
anybody
was
that doesn't
basically
know,
this
including
guy
myself?
we knew had a hot tub, and it was like this guy is going to open up his hot tub and all these people are going to come over and go in this guy's hot tub. And
So
he,
it's a
it's
single
one of those
hot
like,
tub party. It's not like there are
yes, it
multiple
was
hot
like,
tubs.
no, it was
Okay.
this guy's like very small bungalow in Palo Alto. Let's call him John because I don't want to use his real name. John was not my favorite person in the world. And he had this like tiny ass house in Palo Alto, and this hot tub took up like his entire outdoor space. And he was having this like big party hot tub bash. And I was like, I am not freaking going to John's hot tub party. And my best friend Paul, who is now the Associate Dean of Research at Northwestern Law School, was like, no, Ellen, you have to go. Come on, go. And he begged me to go. And because I went, I met this girl who was telling really funny stories about her clients, and she was a public defender. And I am motivated by comedy. And so I was like, this is so funny. I should be a lawyer. And I look back, I'm like, this is like the stupidest reason anyone has ever decided to apply to law school. But I was like, this is my next thing. I'm going to be an attorney. And I was like, you know what? I've always liked tests. I'll take the LSAT. Why not? And I literally bought some books on my phone and was like, yup, this is my new plan. I'm doing it. And so that was March 2011. I took
So
the
Ellen
LSAT.
Cassidy decided to become a lawyer at a hot tub party.
Yep.
Nice.
At a hot tub party based on hearing a funny story.
About a client from an attorney.
About a client of a public defender who he was like, doing some wild behaviors. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
He was doing some like really crazy shit. And I was like, wow, this is funny. I love it. And I just really wanted a life plan. And I look back now of I really had to get my hat handed to me and get taken down to size pretty substantially to get beaten down enough to be able to accept that opportunity that I was given. Because I, just like everybody else, had a very negative attitude about the LSAT. I remember vividly, I had a friend named Adriana, who's now a classics professor, that she said maybe 6 months before I actually took the LSAT, oh, Ellen, I'm studying for the LSAT. I was like, why would you waste your time with that bullshit? That sucks. And of course, I didn't know anything about the LSAT. I was just spewing bullshit. But like, I look back now to take that person who was making these kinds of ill-informed, stupid remarks and turn them into the person who's like, I've always liked tests. Let's do it. I had to get beaten down and my plans had to fail. I had to be humbled to the point where it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and be open enough to take a chance on a funny story at a party and see what would happen. Because then the minute I actually opened up the test and saw literally what it truly is, my whole world changed. My whole life changed from that moment on, because I actually found out the true content of what, the love child of being stuck in a subway car in a root canal really is. And so I really, value that opportunity a lot. And I really now believe like failure is a trampoline, that I look back at the bad times as like instrumental in the good times.
Okay. And so were you studying for the LSAT and teaching it at the same time?
Oh, no. I studied for the LSAT I basically studied for the LSAT in April and May 2011, because I went to that party on like March 20 something. And the test was in early June. And so about 2-ish months. And then I got my score end of June 2011. And then I was like, oh, I'll apply to law school. And I didn't really consider.
I assume you did well
all this time I'm running
on the
Palantir
LSAT.
job. Oh yeah. I mean, I got a 99th percentile score.
Okay.
And so then I was like, okay. And I also have like, in law school standards, I do not have a very good undergraduate GPA. And so me making it into Harvard Law School is actually like very wild. I was like far below their GPA median. And so the LSAT is what did that, along with maybe some other factors. But then I got into Harvard, I don't know, next February or March or something, 2012. And I was set to teach my first LSAT class for PowerScore in May 2012. But I had had one or two tutoring students just based on people I knew before that.
Okay. And so that's when you defer, and that's when you start teaching. How did you get your first tutoree? What's the proper term for that?
Tutee. My first student. We could just say student. The first student before that PowerScore class, honestly, it was that same guy, Paul.
Wait, so what was the PowerScore class? Was it a so you got a job teaching at the LSAT PowerScore after having got your LSAT score?
Oh, yeah. You need a score to do anything with LSAT. If you don't have like an official score, you're kind of a joke.
Okay. And so how did the PowerScore teaching go? Is it a physical class? Is it an online class? Is it a
it became
what was
both.
the business model there?
It became both. So I applied to be one of, hundreds of instructors that teach these in-person classes. And I did a good job. And so I was eventually promoted to teach the online class, which is something very rare. Only like the very top people at PowerScore get to do that. And in the meantime, I responded to a survey that I was given. I got an email from like my main supervisor at PowerScore being like, what do you think of our business model? What do you think of this or that? And I was like, well, I've got time. And I wrote like some very long, intense analysis to this survey. And I look back at like Ellen, why? But the guy who supervised me saw it and just forwarded it to the founder of the company. And I got like a couple hours later an email back, long form, in-depth response to everything I had said from the founder of the company, whose name is Dave Caloran, who's the founder of PowerScore. And he had written the LSAT books I used to prep. So to me, Dave is like a major LSAT celebrity at this point. And you're like, holy shit, I'm talking to Dave Caloran. This is amazing. And we went back and forth, became email pen pals. We met in 2013. And he became my mentor ever since. So he's now been my mentor for almost 11 years and actually edited The Loophole with me. And so.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And so.
I'm going to talk to him right after this in like 10 minutes.
Okay, great. So how did that fold into writing The Loophole?
Well, when I first took the LSAT, I really believed that like the LSAT was just awesome and it must be awesome for everybody, but like this feels like such a soulmate connection. Then like when I was actually at the test, I was like an idiot and I looked at the person next to me and I'm like, aren't you so excited? And they look at me like, are you crazy? And I don't know, something clicked at that point of like, wait a second, like once other people find out what the LSAT is, they don't really respond to it the same way I do. And so it was like, okay, me and you, LSAT, we got something. And I just knew I was doing it in some kind of special way, that like there was something to what I was doing that was different and that I needed to be able to explore and find out. And my whole career, honestly, in LSAT has been plumbing into the depths of my subconscious and figuring out what are those things I am doing automatically to quote, just get it. When I read a complicated sentence, why can I just understand what it means and other people can't? That getting into the nitty gritty technical details of how and why those things happen and designing drills and processes and steps for other people to be able to train and simulate that natural critical intuition, the like natural just get it, just be smart type stuff. And I started that journey in 2012 when I first really started teaching. And people confronting me of like, what are you doing? And me not having answers. And then gradually over time being able to get them answers and test those processes to see that they actually yielded the results that I wanted them to. Yeah.
So this is something, you did while you were working at PowerScore, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So
you were developing this book over multiple years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always say 6 years. That's probably about right. Because I had students who would just find me and refer me outside of PowerScore. Like people would tell their friends basically, and then it would be a non-PowerScore student. And so I could basically just do whatever I wanted.
So Did you originally set out to write the loophole, or was it just kind of a bit by bit? You were kind of building modules that then fed together. How did the creation of the book
I
evolve?
knew I wanted to write a logical reasoning book. Logical reasoning
Okay.
is the section of the LSAT that the loophole's about, and is the riddles thing I've been talking about. And I wanted to write that book, and I had to figure out how. And so, as I would say, it probably took me 2 or 3 years to even come up with a first draft. The loophole is 462 pages. In
I saw
InDesign
it
at
on
first,
Amazon, and I flipped through it a little bit, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is like, this isn't a book. This is a textbook."
oh yeah. So it's a critical thinking and informal and formal logic textbook that's written like a BuzzFeed article.
Okay.
And so that is, I think, part of why the loophole became popular very fast. Is it's a very unique thing. It's taking something that's very hard to talk about in a casual, understandable way, and the whole thing is written in first person. That when people talk to me and they hear my voice, they're like, I hear the loophole in your speaking voice. And it's so weird. It's like you're here and talking to me. And there are lots of like little side notes where I basically like comment and directly to the reader of like, oh, you're probably thinking this right now, aren't you? Well, actually, da 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 da. And the reason why I can have those side notes is because I had so many students for years and years reading my drafts of the loophole and telling me exactly what they were thinking at that given point in the text. And so, because of all those wonderful students that were such a gift to me to trust me before I was famous, I was able to build their thoughts into the loophole. And then thousands of people now have the benefit of that feeling of being recognized and seen and understood as they're reading, even though they're by themselves, which is so cool.
So, part of me wonders, why you don't just sell the loophole or just provide like an online course. And
Well, I
I'm
do just sell the loophole.
based on your experience with, what I'm reading here, is I think you really enjoy, like, you really crave teaching people, and you just have this superpower, which is the logical reasoning part that you know how to explain. And so is that why you don't kind of just fully remove yourself from the business, or is there another reason?
So, I mean, I do sell the loophole. The loophole is on Amazon, anybody can buy it. So that's
Right,
separate. But like,
but you're
oh
not
yeah,
shutting down Elemental Prep just to live off the loophole revenues.
exactly. No, on the top of my tuning page, which may change, it says like, Ellen, but you wrote the loophole. Aren't you just living off the land at this point? It's like, well, no. What I crave is the laboratory.
Mhm.
I love making new things, solving new problems, seeing a novel issue that I can figure out and undo. Like, in a way, like, I love logical reasoning, and this is no shade to logical reasoning or the LSAT, but like, I'm good. Like, I understand it, and like, I love making new things for it, and it's great and everything. But the true challenge is every student is different. Every student is a new puzzle to unlock and figure out. And that's why everything I do is very customized to the student in tutoring, because I love to be able to create new drills, new things, because that's how I wrote the loophole. Is I just want to be able to invent. I love
Mhm.
inventing. It's so fun, like doing something creative with somebody who's like down and like leading them toward what they want. So fun for me. And so as the business progresses and everything, I definitely do want to make, more like mid-market, low touch solutions that can help more people with,
Mm.
Not my personal time being the thing that's for sale. Because first off, it's more equitable, it's money, that's great, but it's just going to help a lot more people. And that's what I really care about. Like my core is not like I want to get rich and exit. My core is I want to teach the world to read and think. That's what I
So
care about.
how do you evolve Elemental Prep next? Like, how do you do that? How do you make it to where how many students do you take on right now that aren't on the waiting list, that are actually like live students at a time?
I have 24
Okay, so how do you
students at a
make it
time.
240? How do you 10x that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think of all the kids who read the Loophole as my students in a way, but I have a subscription platform that's going to be coming out really soon. Working title is E plus me, but that might change. Where I'm going to have it be a lower cost subscription that sells the resources. So I invented this this technique called the CLEAR, CLIR. And when I say systematizing critical intuition, that's CLEAR. And that acronym is standing for different analytical techniques you use in certain situations. And so we made over 4,000 answer keys to various clears, which is like my proprietary methodology. So the answer keys don't exist without us. And so people are going to be able to subscribe to those answer keys, as well as, some of my video solutions, other databases I've built over the years. Because right now, honestly, Elemental is like very poorly marketed because no one has ever truly marketed it. It's just me writing websites in between my 12-hour days. And so it's not really fully explained, but we have a lot of stuff behind the Elemental curtain that can just be a self-service subscription. So that's the next thing. But then as that builds and builds, I do hope to make that $99 general reading and thinkific course for everybody. And like, I already have the goods for it. I just need to sit down and do it. And I just want to get Elemental into more of a plug and play from an ops perspective before that happens.
Okay. So what does the timeline look for something like that? Do you think it's going to take you 2 years, 5 years? Does it matter to you?
No.
Do you just kind of want to work on one thing at a time until?
I mean, that shit doesn't really matter to me. I often feel like in Hampton, I'm always trying to pretend I care about Q1 because everyone else does, but I'm like, yep. Because like I said, I want to teach people to read and think. That's what I really care about. All of the business stuff, it's interesting and fun, and I love it, and I love entrepreneurship, but I'm much more of a radicalist, self-taught type person. And so my thoughts on like when all this is going to happen is it's all happening right now as fast as I can get it done. And I hope that by the end of 2024, half the revenue of the business will not be from selling my personal time. And once that's the case, I will have so much more creative time to build those courses for the general audience. Because like I always say, it's like the world has never known Ellen without a massive handicap. Because my handicap is I bill 8 to 10 hours a day. Every day almost.
That's insane.
I am constantly in session. Nobody knows what I am capable of anymore if I actually had the same amount of time that everybody else does.
You bill like an attorney having not gone to law school.
I bill, I think, more than big law hours.
I'd like to put your billable hours up against like a expensive New York attorney just to see whose hours are more.
Right.
So my dad was an attorney. My dad was an attorney, and he was taught that if you're thinking about a case in the shower for 15 minutes, you bill that 15 minutes. That's like the mentality that they're taught. I
know. And so, their billables, quote unquote, and my billables, I think, are very different, given that I only bill time I'm literally sitting in a Zoom with someone and doing real work versus like, I also, with tutoring, it's, poorly marketed. It shouldn't be really billed hourly at all. It should be billed for the package of all of what you get, which is like a communication retainer. I talk to these people all week on my Slack. Like I have a Slack I run for them where they can get any question answered 24/7. And they can DM me and be like, Ellen, I'm freaking out. Oh my God, what should I do? And I will reply to them and talk them off the ledge.
To me, this seems like you have just an enormous treasure trove of data that with AI could be mined and you like everything you do, you should save. Like I don't know if you your individual one-on-one tutoring, I'm not sure if you record those, but even those can be like transcribed and converted into.
Let me tell you my other dream that we didn't get to. So in addition to that resource subscription platform, what I really want to do is create AI Ellen. So I want to load the
We've talked about this. We've talked about this.
Into into an AI, have a tiered subscription, and then go up. And the top tier would be using my 4,000 sessions of structured tutoring notes, because every session I take a shit ton of notes. I write like a
Really?
novel every session.
Okay.
And because like that's where my writing bug goes. Like I've written, multiple 100-page books. Now I write those notes. And so they're all structured. They all have dates and people and homework that was given on which date and all of that kind of stuff. And so I want to be able to eventually load that into an AI and really have a tutoring in the box subscription platform where students are sorted into personas and they can get that customized feedback that I hope an AI can help me give to more people one day.
Yeah, I don't think, I think it could do well now, but I think we're a little bit of ways for it. Like, I think if you even just wait 6 months to a year, it'll just be so much better that it's worth the wait. But also because we're at Better Legal, we're experimenting with, AI. I think I've talked about this a little bit. We're experimenting with AI chatbots. And we've done this for years. We've had, hard-coded chatbots where it was like, if someone said, what is the price of a Kansas LLC? It'll go look up the Kansas filing fee, do a little programmatic calculation, and then like respond with the number. And so it was kind of hard-coded, part AI. The AI part really came into like grouping together, like basically you telling the AI, these people are all asking the same question, and you feed it different ways people are asking the same question. You say, these people are asking the same question, do this task when it happens. And this is something that Twilio used to provide. And now we have ChatGPT 4, and I basically uploaded all of our public web pages, which how to start an LLC in every state, how to maintain an LLC in every state. Then every state has their own how to change your name, how to change your address, how to change your registered agent address, like all those things. I uploaded all of those into a chatbot and basically just let it run loose to where if a human can't get to the person chatting or requesting a chat immediately, that the AI chatbot just takes over. It's almost like an interactive voicemail, if you will, but chat.
Yeah.
And it started answering the questions way more like in depth, because a human just kind of answers based on what they know, but they don't answer it fully. They kind of take shortcuts. And so the chatbot started answering questions so much more completely and being able to answer follow-up questions that we're actually investing more into the AI chatbot. So then the human customer service people can focus on actually doing the tasks that the AI chatbot collects on. Oh, this person actually wants this. Here you go. And so we're developing that. But what we really want to do in the next 6 months is figure out how to attach a voice to it. And so I'll just like clone my voice, because I'm kind of the brand on YouTube and whatever. So clone my voice, and then if someone calls, it'll be me speaking and kind of answering questions. Now we might have to change that, because if people ask specific questions for them, there's the unlicensed practice of law. And so like if it's my voice, people might think they're talking to me. So it might need to be a digitally manipulated voice. But I can see something very similar with you, where it's your voice and people are having a kind of like a Google Meet with a digital version of you, and you're kind of giving them, questions and whatnot. So yeah, I think we're, a year, maybe a couple years away before you can explode this.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I think that will be the end game, hopefully, of like really scaling the kind of help I provide.
Yeah. But right now it's amazing that you're collecting so much information, because that's the juice.
Yeah.
That's the juice that you'll be able to extract out of that. And that's what, when they say data is the new oil, what you're collecting, all of every single interaction you have and all of those things that you're writing down, that's the data that is the oil that I think is going to be worth a lot, that you just basically pump into an AI model. And they're going to change every year, right? It's going to be like modems early on. It was like 2400 baud modem. Then it was 4800 baud modem. And then it's like every 6 months you were getting a new modem, until all of a sudden we had broadband, and it was like, okay, well, this is fast enough now. But I think it's going to be like that for a while. It's just like every 6 to 9 months, it's going to be boom, 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 until we hit like an AGI. But yeah, you just collect that data and then feed it into the new model. feed into the new model. So
It would be so cool. I'm so excited.
anyway, Ellen, thanks for the conversation. And where can people find you online?
Yeah.
Where are your socials, or where you might want to talk to people, or where they might find you?
Yeah. So elementalprep.com, that's the easiest place. Ellen at elementalprep.com is the email. If you want to shoot me an email about this podcast, I'll reply. And I'm actually launching my TikTok in like a week. I
Nice.
don't know the username yet, which is maybe silly. My username on Reddit is Elemental Ellen, so maybe it'll be that same thing. But I'm really excited. I've filmed a lot of content for the TikTok launch and going and hanging out with people over there. But I'll be coming to Instagram Reels and YouTube pretty soon too.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.